Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Drinking and Reading. Coffee and weird tales. Okay, so it might be one of those days where reading is not as easy as I want it to be. But I'm still going to give it a go because I want to, and because I said I had something exciting planned, which is this. Yes. It's a massive volume of weird tales that my husband got me for our anniversary, so it's totally awesome. It's probably flipped around the wrong way, so you can't really, I think you get what that is. So yeah, it's this. I got it for my anniversary, our anniversary, from my husband. And I'm going to be reading a story by one of my favourite authors, which is Seabury Quinn, and it's a Jules de Grandin, probably murder mystery or something. I think this is from February 1938. Yes, I think it is. Yes, this story I'm going to be reading is Frozen Beauty, February 1938. Yeah, it's a really beautiful book. I'm very proud of it. I'm very excited to be reading this to you. I hope you enjoy. Frozen Beauty by Seabury Quinn. A story of Jules de Grandin and the weird exploit of a great Russian physician who was murdered before he could complete his daring experiment. A fascinating novelette of weird science. The heat had been intolerable all day, but now a rain was falling, a soft, cooling summer rain that spread a gleaming black veneer across the highway pavement and marked the traffic lamps with cross-shaped fuzzy glows of green and ruby. Falling on our faces as we drove home from the club with the roadster's canvas cover folded back, it was cool and gracious, delicate and calm upon our brows, as the light touch of a skillful nurse's fingers on a fevered patient's forehead. Soothing nerves stretched taut by 18 holes of golf played in a blistering sun. My friend Jules de Grandin's satisfaction with himself was most annoying. He had ceased playing at the second hole, found a wicker rocker on the clubhouse porch, and devoted the entire afternoon to devastation of gin swizzles. Tiens, he chuckled. You are droll, my friend, you English and Americans. Okay. You work like Turks and Tartars at your professional vocations, then rest by doing manual labor in the sun. Not I, by blue. I have the self-respect. He leant back on the cushions, turning up his forehead to the cooling rain and humming a snatch of tune. And he says, song and shit. Blah, 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 blah. With a strident screech of brakes, I brought the roadster to a stop in time to keep from running down the man who stood before us in the headlight's glare, arm raised imperatively. Good heavens, man, I rasped. Do you want to be run over? You almost. You're a doctor? He demanded in a sharp, thin voice, pointing to the Medical Society's green cross and gold catechus on my radiator. Yeah. Okay. I need to pull this chair on so I can just rest the book because I couldn't be bothered holding it. On my radiator? Yes, but please come at once, sir. It's the master, Dr. Pavlovich. I think he's very ill, sir. The ethics of the medical profession take no account of work-worn nerves, and with a sigh I headed towards the tall gate in the roadster's hedge. The fellow pointed out. What seems to be the matter with the doctor? I inquired as our guide hopped nimbly on the running board after swinging back the driveway gate. I might have to make more coffee. Not yet. Gate. I don't know, sir, he replied. Some kind of stroke, I think. The telephone went out of order just at dinner time. Lightning must have hit the line when the storm was blown up. And I took the station wagon to the village for some things the grocer hadn't sent. When I got back, everything Everything was dark and I couldn't seem to make the lights work, but they flashed on all of a sudden like, and there was Dr. Pavlovich laying in the middle of the floor with everything all messed up in the study, and I couldn't seem to rouse him. So I tried to get the village on the phone, but it still won't work. And when I tried to start the station wagon, I found that something had gone wrong with it. So I starts to walk down to the village, and just then you come down the road, and I see the little green cross on your car, so... I'll have that darn thing taken off tomorrow, I assured myself, in front of everyone. Then aloud, to stop the servants' endless chatter, "All right, we'll do everything we can, but we haven't any medicines or instruments, so maybe we shall have to send for supplies." "So maybe we shall have to send you for supplies." "Yes, sir," he replied respectfully, and to my relief lapsed into momentary silence. The big house Dr. Mikhail Pavlovich had purchased 2 years previously, and in which he lived in churlish solitude, attended only by his English houseman, sat back on a deep lawn thick-set with huge old trees, fenced against the highway by an 8-foot privet hedge, and surrounded on the 3 remaining sides by tall brick walls, topped with broken bottles set in mortar. As we circled up the driveway, I could feel the eerie atmosphere that hovered round the place. It was, I think, the lights which struck me queerly, or, to be more accurate, the absence of familiar lights in a place where... in a place we knew to be inhabited. Blinds were drawn down tightly, with forbidding secrecy. At every window, yet between their bottoms and the sills were little lines of luminance, which showed against the darkness like a line of grey-white eyeball glimpsed between the lowered lids of a corpse. We hurried down the wide hall to a big room at the rear, and paused upon the threshold as the glare of 6 strong, unshaded lamps stabbed at our eyes. Everything about the place was topsy-turvy. Drawers had been jerked from desks and literally turned out upon the floor, their contents scattered in fantastic heaps as though they had been stirred with a gigantic spoon. The davenport was pulled apart, its mattress tipped insanely sideways. Pillows were ripped open and gaped like dying things, their gasping mouths disgorged down and kapok. What? Down and kapok. I don't know what that means. The whole room might have been a movie set at the conclusion of a slapstick farce, except for that which occupied the center of the floor. Probably wasn't funny. Or might have been. In the midst of the fantastic jumble lay a man in dinner clothes, save for the jacket which, sleeves turned half out and lining slit to tatters, was crumpled on a chair. He lay upon his back, his partly opened eyes fixed on the ceiling where a cluster of electric bulbs blazed white and hard as limelight. He was a big man with a big moustache, curled in the fashion of the pre-war days, and what hair he had was touched with grey. "Gord, sir, he ain't moved since I left him," the houseman whispered. "Is he paralysed, do you think?" I should try doing characters. "Completely," I nodded. "Completely," nodded Jules de Grandin. "He is very dead, my friend." "Dead? Like a herring, and unless I miss my guess, he died of murder." "But there's no blood, no sign of any wound," I interrupted. "I don't believe there was a struggle even. The place has been ransacked, but... No wound, you say? Non vieux." If I mispronounce French words, I'm really sorry. I just, I don't know French words, and sometimes I will... anyway, fuck. "He broke out as he... No wound, you say? Mon vieux. He broke in as he knelt beside the dead man's head. Regardez, s'il vous plaît." He raised the massive, almost hairless head and pointed with a well-groomed finger to the gleaming silver stud protruding from the flesh. Plunged in the rather beefy neck, a tiny silver-headed bodkin showed. Less than half an inch of haft protruded, for the little awl was driven deep into the fatal spot, the medulla oblongata, with deadly accuracy. Death had been instantaneous and bloodless. Ooh. How? I began, but he shut me off with an unpleasant laugh as he rose and brushed his knees. Yes. Cherchez la femme, he murmured. This is undoubtedly a woman's work, and the work of one who knew him quite well. All the evidence suggests it. A little tiny bodkin driven into the brain, a woman's weapon. Probably she did it with her arms about his neck. A woman's finesse, that. Who she was and why she did it, and what she and her confederates looked for when they made a bear's den of this place, is for the police to determine. To determine. Turning to the servant, he demanded, "This Dr. Pavlovich, did he have callers in the afternoon?" "No, sir, not as I know of. He was a queer 'un, sir, though he was a proper gentleman. Never had no callers, I remember. Never used the telephone while I was here. If anybody ever come to see him, they done it while I was away." One sees. Did he ever mention fearing anyone or suspecting that he might be robbed? Him? Law, no, sir. 6'3" in stockings he was, and could bend iron bars with his bare hands. I seen him do it more than once. Did ya? Sounds like a bit of a lie. Had a regular arsenal of guns and things too, he did, and kept the house locked like a jail. Didn't take no chances on the robbery, sir, but I wouldn't say he was afraid. He'd been a nasty customer in a row. He'd be a nasty customer in a row. If anyone had broken in, he'd have given 'em what for, good and proper, sir. Going to the telephone, the little Frenchman raised the instrument from its forked cradle and held it to his ear. Parbleu! He pressed the contact bar down with a triple rattle, then dropped the speaking tube back in its rack. "Remain here, if you please," he bade the servant. As he motioned me to follow outside, he whispered, "There is no dial tone discernible. The line is cut." Bloody hell. We circled round the house, seeking the connection, and beside the chimney we found the inlet. The wires had been neatly clipped, and the fresh-cut copper showed as bright against the severed insulation as a wound against dark flesh. "What do you make of it?" I asked, as he knelt on the wet grass and searched the ground for traces of wire cutters. "Think that chap inside knows more than he pretends?" "Less, if possible," he said shortly. "Such stupidity as his could not be simulated. Besides, I know his type." Yeah, see. Jules is a little arrogant, you'll come to see. As we go along, he's pretty full of himself. But anyway, I try to like him. Okay. Besides, I know his type. Had he been implicated in a murder or a robbery, he would have set as great a distance between him and the crime scene as he could. With a shrug of resignation, he straightened to his feet and brushed the leaf mold from his trousers. "No tracks of any sort," he murmured. "The grass grows close against the house, and in the rain, and the rain has washed away the little table, and the rain has washed away what little tale the miscreant's footprints might have told. Let us go back. We must inform the police and the coroner." "Want me to take the car and notify him?" I asked as we turned the corner of the house. It's hardly safe to trust the servants out of sight before the officers have a chance to question him. And you don't drive, so... The pressure of his fingers on my elbow silenced me, and we drew back in the shelter of the ivy-hung wall as the crunch of wheels came to us from the lower driveway. What the deuce, I wondered as I glimpsed the vehicle between the rain-drenched trees. What's an express van doing here this time of night? Let us make ourselves inconspicuous as possible, he cautioned in a whisper. In a whisper. It may be that they plan a ruse for entering the house and... But good heavens, man, they've already gone through it like termites through a log, I interjected. Aha! You overlooked the patient... No? You overlook the patent possibilities, my friend. What do we really know? Only that Dr. Pavlovich was murdered in his study, ransacked. And his study ransacked. But why do people search a place? To find something they want? Necessaire pas? That much is obvious. Still, we do not know they found the thing they sought. Or if they found it, we cannot say that others do not also seek it. It must have been a thing of value to have caused them to do murder. You mean there may be two gangs hunting something Pavlovich had hidden in the house? Already stretching. But, you know, I don't think he's ever wrong. I don't know, I can't remember. Oh, excuse me. Okay, alright. A little bit more. It is quite possible. He was a Russian, and Russia is synonymous with mystery today. The old noblesse have smuggled fortunes from the country, or have plans for getting out the treasures they could not take with them in flights. Plots and counterplots, intrigue, plans for assassination or revenge are natural to a Russian as fleas are to a dog. I think it wholly possible that more than one conspiracy to deprive the amiable Pavlovich of life and fortune has been in progress, and he would not have been a good insurance risk, even if the ones who murdered him tonight had done their work less thoroughly. The big green truck had drawn up at the steps, and a man in express uniform hopped out. Dr. Pavlovich, he asked when the houseman answered to his thunderous banging on the door knocker. No, oh, sir, gulped the servant, the doctor isn't home just now. Okay, pal, will you sign for this consignment and give us a lift with it? It's marked urgent. With grunts and exclamations of exertion, plus a liberal allowance of the sort of language prized by soldiers, stevedores and sailors, the great packing case was finally wrestled up the steps and dropped unceremoniously in the hall. The express van turned down the drive, and we slipped from our concealment to find Pavlovich's houseman gazing at the giant parcel ruefully. "What'll I do with it now, sir?" he asked de Grandin. "I know the doctor was expecting something of the sort, for he told me so himself this morning, but he didn't tell me what it was, and I don't know whether I should open it or leave it for the officers." De Grandin tweaked the end of the waxed moustache between his thumb and forefinger as he regarded the great grin. As he regarded the great crate, it was more than 6 feet long, something more than 3 feet wide, and better than a yard in height. Ah bien, he answered. I think the citizens of Troy were faced with the same problem. They forbore to open that which came to them with most deplorable results. Let us not be guilty of the same mistake. Have you a crowbar handy? Well, there you have it. That is part 1 of Frozen Beauty. Okay, so well written, of course. Seabury Quinn, well done. So someone died. That's really all we have to say about this story so far. I'm looking forward to not having a cold the next time I read. So, yeah. Like I said, this will be a Friday thing. I think. I don't know, I'm fickle. It may be more often. Because, you know, I do enjoy doing this. And I've enjoyed this reading, so yes. I hope you enjoyed listening. If you liked this video, please like the video. If you would like to join me for more, please subscribe. I'm going to stop now because I want these readings to be, well, at least shorter than 20 minutes, which is, yeah, okay, it's going to be now. Alright, thanks for joining me.